What is with all of these coaches and analysts talking What's going on, folks? This is Coach Marcus for Pro Fan Talk, and once again, we've got analysts, coaches putting out bulletin board material like it's nobody's business. Like, where did this come from? I know the answer to the question is it comes from this social media era. Everybody has to say something. You had the guy from the Braves talking smack, and then he's crying. Locker room is supposed to be a sanctuary. Well, if that's what you think, you haven't been paying attention. The guy from, I think he's from ESPN, or one of them, I think it's Pelissero, was like, no, it's not a sanctuary. People go in there to do their job. So if you running off at the mouth in the locker room and you got 10 people around you and they all got microphones and iPhones recording and all of that kind of stuff, why would you say something that you don't want out there? That's why it's called closed door meetings. You keep the press out, and it's for the team only. And you can go ham on whatever you want to do. In the Thursday night game, you had Steve Smith and Jerry Judy going at it. We didn't see what happened with Judy, but all we see is the broadcast comes on, or at least all I saw was the broadcast came on, Steve Smith addressing what was said. And basically, Jerry Judy was upset because Steve Smith said something to him previously on his podcast or something like that. And I guess Jerry Judy said something to him while he was on the air in a situation where he couldn't respond, and basically gave him the big, basically said, screw you, in more colorful language. And if you know anything about Steve Smith from when he played ball, Steve Smith don't play that. So when I saw the response on the air, and I'm looking at all the comments, people calling Steve Smith weak for responding the way he did. And I'm like, if that's what you're saying, then you must not really know Steve Smith, because he ain't got no problem approaching you and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. That ain't no different than the situation that happened with Ja Morant and Ja Morant's dad and Shannon Sharp. It's the same situation. But you go look up them tapes at Steve Smith. You want to see something funny? You go look at Steve Smith and Aqib Talib. I believe Talib was playing for the Patriots, and he was getting all up in Steve Smith's face, and Steve Smith just put it on him. Got him frustrated out of the game, and because Aqib Talib was known to be like a bully. That's the dude that snatched the chain off the wide receiver and all of that kind of stuff. And Steve Smith wasn't having it, and they went at it. And I believe they ended up taking Talib out of the game. Steve Smith was just chewing him up. He couldn't stop him, because after all of the yapping, they still had to play a game, and they couldn't stop Steve Smith. He got the best of them. So stuff like this happens all the time. But it's just recently, you saw the thing with Dante Whitner, what he said about Dak Prescott. It's like everybody's putting out these comments, and to me, they're trying to be inflammatory on purpose, because that is what's getting the social media traffic. That's what it all comes down to. Go check out my video about ESPN doing the clickbait. ESPN had the dude they would do, and all it was, the guy on ESPN, but he was just doing like the filler. They basically give you the filler of what's happening on the other games. So you don't even see his face, you just hear his voice. But what he did was, he was making all these disparaging comments about Trey Lance, about how bad he was, and Trey Lance had won the game. He took the one play from Trey Lance and just spread that over the whole game. So clearly he didn't watch the game, and just made him look like an idiot. Made ESPN look like an idiot for allowing that to go on. Maybe they were doing it live or whatever. No type of edit. And it's like, that's basic. If you're going to talk this smack about the game, at least watch it. The one thing about Steve Smith, most of his commentary, and while a lot of people might not agree with it, just like anybody else, name them: Skip Bayless, Colin Cowherd, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith, Marcellus Wiley, Pat McAfee, anybody that's got those big podcasts that are always analyzing and got opinions on player, everybody's not going to agree with it. And that's part of the, I guess, process. So that's how the game is played. You're going to get just as much attention from people that don't like you as you do from people that follow you. In the case of Steve Smith, most of the time he's given a honest opinion on what he thinks. Now, if you've ever watched Steve Smith, you know he can be brutally honest and has no problem telling you that. But he's mixing the old school way that journalists used to do it. Journalists used to have to write stuff about you and then have to come see you in the locker room. Steve Smith ain't afraid to come see you. Me personally, I didn't mind the way he handled it. He got his last jabs in and was trying to keep it classy, but he was throwing digs at Jerry Judy. That was easy to see, and maybe that's what rub people the wrong way. I ain't had no problem with it because I can just imagine how some of the players do when they think they got you in a situation where you can't respond. And that was one of those situations. What was he going to do on the air? Nothing. And he said as much. He said, I got a job to do. I'm not going to embarrass myself, get fired from my job, all of that kind of stuff. And Jerry Judy knew that. So he got his digs in. Jerry Judy said what he said. That's what you're going to get when you get these ex-players as analysts and commentators. That ego doesn't go anywhere. It's just suppressed. That ego and that bravado and all that testosterone that comes up when you in game day and you in that mode, whenever you in that type of environment, whether if you're an analyst or a player, if you are an analyst that used to play, you feed off that energy too. Not as much and it's not as potent as it was when you were still an active player. But make no mistake, if you ever played the game at the highest level, the minute you step into a stadium, you feel those juices bubbling. That stuff does not go away. You just suppress it because you in a different role now. You look at some of them guys that used to play and they're analysts on the set at the stadium and different things like that. If you ever watch them when they're not on TV and they're just watching the game, look how often look how hard they get into the game when they get involved in the game. And you got people like this, like Steve Smith, he is not one to play with you. He is not one to mince words. And if you want to take it to the next level, and I think that's what some of these young guys forget. And the one thing about Steve Smith, people used to try to take advantage of him, misunderstand what he was about because of his size. He was a small guy, but he did not take no crap from nobody. He'll get up in your face. He'll put hands on you. He'll fight you, all of that. And a lot of people weren't ready for that. He is not one to play. So when Jerry Judy or anybody else wants to come up against an analyst or somebody like that, because you in your feelings, come at him while he's doing his job, like, nah, that's a foul. He's on the other side of it. Steve Smith is on the other side of it. So he's supposed to give his opinion. The same way Shady was about Dak Prescott, the same way Whitner was about Prescott, all of that kind of stuff. Everybody gets an opportunity. Again, just like the situation that happened with Shannon Sharp, you need to know your personnel. So if you're a player and you decide you're going to say something against one of these old cats that's been in the league, Hall of Famer, all of that kind of stuff, you still better know who you're dealing with. Because some of these dudes got a past that you know nothing about. And some of these young cats be feeling themselves because they got the money and they feel like they can do whatever they want to do. One of these old brothers will step to you, put their hands on your collar, and let you know in no uncertain terms, I am not the one. Jerry Judy didn't want that type of smoke. But it's just weird. All of a sudden, it's been getting more intense. You saw Dante Whitner. You got to come with a little bit more than that. It started last year when Shady McCoy said what he said on FS1.
Dak is ass.
Acho, Joey Taylor, and all of them. And he did the Dak is ass thing. And he said it again the other day. Every time the Cowboys lose and Skip Bayless wants to slam his jersey in the trash can, bro, how many jerseys you got? How many times have you done that lame routine now? You got to come up with something new. But it's just for the clicks. We just want to see who's going to do it. You mean to tell me all of these Cowboy fans that get so upset that they breaking stuff? They got the one video of the dude pulling down his Cowboys flag. They got the one dude in a bar where he had a picture of, I guess maybe it was Dak Prescott. I don't know. But he had a Cowboys picture in the bar. And this wasn't like eye level. He had to stand up on the bar to get to the picture. And he breaks the glass in the frame. He breaks the glass frame. So you got all of these people doing all this crazy stuff just for the attention. You mean to tell me you gonna scream, holler, break a TV, punch a hole in the wall and all of that kind of stuff, and you just so happen to have the camera at the right angle looking at you and you hit record, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of this stuff is just a production. Let's keep it real. It's just a production. And it's people trying to go viral. That's what it comes down to. It's trying to go viral. And that stuff, and it's funny because it's been here, but it's getting more attention because now all of the people that used to be on TV, it used to be if you were on TV, you would look down on the people that did YouTube and TikTok and all of that kind of stuff. Now, these people that are doing TikTok and YouTube and social media make more money than them guys that are on television. So now the script has been flipped. So now all of these people, like all of the people I previously mentioned that used to be on ESPN all the time, now they're doing the YouTube thing and they're making more money of it because they've gotten rid of the middleman. You got to play by their rules. You got to play by the social media rules. What the social media rules are, I don't care if you're good or bad. I don't care if I love you or hate you. I'm still going to watch. And that's what these guys are doing. I guarantee whatever podcast or whatever network Steve Smith was on going into the weekend and then the next week, everybody's going to be asking him about that moment. Everybody's going to be asking Jerry Judy about that moment. So his social media and the click and the traffic and everything that comes with that is going to just continue to rise. The same thing happened with Kelsey and Taylor Swift. And the NFL at least was honest enough to say, hey, this is good for business, so we're going to keep it moving. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Then you got 11 kisses. And this is based on the Robert Saleh quote, talking about trying to figure out ways to stop our quarterback sneak, the brotherly shove. Well, we got to put 11 kisses on them. What? Dude, just keep it in coach speak. Keep it classy, man. You don't want to, you get mad at players that put bulletin board material up. You were the head coach. You can't be the one putting the bulletin board material up. You can't fall into that trap. You could have said, hey, we just got to get 11 hats on them, or, you know, we got to make it rough. You could have said a million other different things, and you're going to say 11 kisses. Are you serious? And, of course, that gets back to the Eagles. Fletcher Cox and responded in kind, and he should have. And I agree with, I don't know if you guys saw Barrett Brooks. I agree with Barrett. Everybody on that offensive line ought to be pissed off, and they need to run all over the Jets just for that. This is one of them games where Sirianni need to, if we can run it up to 40 or 50 points, you do that, and you deliver that message. Like, dude, don't ever poke the bear like that. You must be out of your damn mind. You must be crazy. Y'all missing players. Your team is not as good as the Eagles. Your top offensive lineman is gone for the year. You already lost your quarterback, but you lost two of the most important pieces on your team to the same injury. And you got a nerve to talk smack to arguably the best team in the league? Are you kidding me? That's what makes you appreciate, or it makes me appreciate, Jalen Hurts as much as I do. And eventually, Jalen Hurts is going to reach a point. People are going to get tired of hearing it, but there's some merit to that where he says keep the main thing the main thing. He don't get sidetracked on all of the nonsense. I was very surprised to hear that come from a head coach. But for the coach to put out the bulletin board material, I guess he wanted all of the targets on him. I just didn't understand that at all. The situation that your team is in, your defense is playing well, but you have zero. The play coming from your offense has been suspect at best. Zach Taylor is just now getting to the point where he's looking average. You had the big emotional win last week, and now you coming across another good team. I don't believe in layups. There are no automatic wins in the NFL. The Eagles still got to go up to the Meadowlands and play the game. But we're going to have a game plan. We're going to be ready. We got the better roster. We got the better players. We got the better quarterback. And that's how we're going to do it. And I'm hoping we put up 40 on just to show people like we ain't playing. It is amazing to me how people keep putting this stuff out there. And now that it's like you done pulled the cork out the dam. And now it's just, you just going to get an onslaught. It's going to keep coming because it's generating traffic. It's generating traffic. ESPN can't benefit off of this. Only the content creators and the social media are going to take advantage of this. Fletcher Cox is going to say something, and probably from somebody from the Jets is going to say something back, and somebody from the Eagles is going to say something back. And then you already know when we play the game, somebody at the game, one of the broadcasters at the game is going to mention this situation, and it's going to get chippy and warm up, and somebody's going to tackle Jalen Hurts hard, and then it's going to get chippy there, and then it's all going to go back to this incident, all to this comment. The content creators are going to eat it up, yours truly included. But it's amazing how quickly this landscape changed in the last 2 years. It's amazing to me. Shouldn't be surprising, but still, when you see it firsthand and you see it as it's happening, it is very interesting to watch and learn from. I've said this before. I remember watching that, I believe it was a CNN or Good Morning America, one of those type of shows, when they were asking, what is a .com, or like what's an email, or something to that effect. The first time that aspect of technology had really passed the threshold, and it was getting national attention. And I remember the old heads, the traditional media, they weren't having it. It just, I don't know what it is, I don't understand it, blah blah blah. Fast forward to a couple of years later, CNN and every major network has a text crawl, split screen text crawl on a live broadcast. So you can see people texting in, tweeting, all of that kind of stuff. And it's still people to this day that still don't understand the technology. And those are the people that get left behind. You know me. I try to keep it 100 and keep the toxic on the bench. I ain't trying to start nothing, but I'm going to tell the truth in these situations. That's the one good thing about Philly. If you got Philly players and all of this kind of stuff that ain't up to par or whatever, we'll call you out on it. It ain't trying to be personal. It's never personal. It's always business. Same prime example, perfect example. And you look at the situation right now with Quez Watkins. When Quez Watkins was talking all of that stuff in the preseason, talking about he was going to prove to people, and it's like, bro, you ain't got nothing to prove. I know you're good. I know you're fast. I know you can catch. The only problem is it hasn't been happening in big moments. That was the only criticism. And that was a valid criticism. But now these young players are so into their feelings, can't nobody say nothing bad about it. And they feel in some kind of way, and then they respond, and then that's the one thing that these guys got to know now. The internet does not lose. Anytime you want to come back at somebody and, you coming out of pocket, your response to a situation or comments or something like that, most likely there is something that somebody's going to pull from your past. But remember when you did this? Remember when you said this? And it's going to go completely opposite of the point that you're trying to make. And you will look like a fool. Man, the internet's got a good record for receipts. If you want to understand how to use the internet, you look at what Coach Prime is doing right now. You take your lumps, you keep it moving. If you want to go back into the bravado and all of the talking, which he does, you still do it. But when your time comes to take it upside the head because you got beat or you got drugged by Oregon or whatever the situation is, you take your lumps and you keep it moving. But don't act like it didn't happen. Because if you're going to put it out, you got to be able to take it. And a lot of these guys, they get into their feelings and they act like can't nobody say nothing against them. It's the same way you got some of these analysts, good analysts. Let me put the right context to this. Good analysts, people that watch film, people that study the game, people like Baldy, people like Greg Cosell, and there's a bunch of others. But there are people who have never played the game that know every nook and cranny of the NFL, every defense, every offensive set, everything, because they study the game and they understand it. Greg Cosell ain't look like he ain't never played it down, but he studies the game and understands it. And the first response to a lot of these players is, what does he know? Because he's never played the game. So he don't know what he's talking about. That's not true. I can give you some perspective from my experience actually playing the game, coming out of a tunnel, playing on the field, scoring a touchdown. I can give you some experience in that some of those guys that never played will never have. That's a valid point. But we're not talking about that. Normally, when you look at the stuff that's going on the news, on ESPN, on Fox Sports, all of that kind of stuff, most of that stuff is statistics, analytics, and the X's and O's. Most of these people, they do their homework. There's a lot of people that don't. And that's okay. If you want to go with those people for not knowing what you know, athletes got to stop using the excuse they don't know what they're talking about because they never played the game. There are some aspects that they'll know nothing about. That is true. But you can't tell some of these guys they don't know the game, because some of the greatest coaches in history, Hall of Fame coaches, never actually played the sport that they're coaching. They were always coaches. So you can't say that. And it's just a bunch of, as athletes getting into their feelings, feeling some kind of way because they have no rebuttal. Now I'm curious to see how this is going to continue to roll. The situation with Steve Smith, the situation with Dante Whitner. I got to go look back up with the situation with Dante Whitner, because that was like out of the blue. Like, what, nobody was expecting it. Like, did you really just go there? So now, watch. You're going to start seeing all of these podcasts. And I guess Steve Smith, because Steve Smith I like Steve Smith because I like his honesty, and he don't pull no punches. But he ain't trying to, at least in my opinion, hurt nobody. He just giving his honest opinion. Somebody's going to have a podcast, and it's just going to be straight just trashing everybody. And that's going to be the point of it. They're going to have the worst takes. They're going to be the worst of the worst. And somebody's going to do their podcast, and it's going to blow up. People want to watch the train wreck. I'll just end it like this, man. I am glad that we don't have that problem. Sirianni talks some smack every now and then. Usually Sirianni's on the sideline going crazy because he's an emotional dude. But his balance is Jalen Hurts. And as long as we got Jalen Hurts as QB1 running the ship, we in good shape. And we don't have to go through all of that. So it is what it is, man. We'll see how this continues. And I will talk to you guys later as usual. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And I will see you guys in the next play.